Hello, everyone. Hey, good evening, and welcome to another episode of The Front. My name is Mike Phillips, and I will be your host. This is another live leadership lesson that I'm going to get started here shortly. A couple quick reminders, if you would. You can check out leadtheteam.net for free sales training, for motivational content, and for leadership tips. So you could cruise on over there. Also, if you would check out the YouTube channel at leadtheteam.tv and make sure you subscribe there. Click the little bell notification icon so you get notified when I go live and when I upload new episodes, because I would love to have you be a participant and engage in the videos and share your thoughts on what it is that we're talking about. So as I mentioned, on Wednesdays, we do live leadership lessons. And with me today, I have got the Car Biz coach. He is absolutely awesome. His name's Sean Kelley, and I'm going to have him on here right after this.
Thanks for tuning in to Lead the Teams, The Front.
Yes, we are live. I got Sean Kelley right over there. I always point the wrong direction. Sean, how are you doing this evening, man?
I'm doing fantastic, my friend. Mike, thanks for having me on the show.
Yeah, absolutely. So as always, I like to get started. For anybody that can see, you've got kind of right behind you there. Sean is a car business coach. He is a leadership coach. He's a sales trainer. He's got his sign right there. It says Coaching the Car Business, carmotivators.com. So, Sean, you've been in leadership for some time. Do me a favor, just give the audience kind of a brief history of who you are, what's your business background, where did you come from? Sum it up in 2 or 3 minutes.
Absolutely. So I started off in leadership in the Army, actually, right out of high school. I got into special operations, and I was lucky enough to spend just over 2 years as a non-commissioned officer deployed in combat zones as a leader in Bosnia, and then Operation Iraqi Freedom 1. Then I got back out of the military. I bought a house I couldn't afford, and I knocked up my fiance, and then I wrecked my car. And that's how I ended up in the car business. And luckily, the leadership I had studied leadership profusely because I wanted to make sure everyone made it home from combat safely. That applied pretty well to the car business and served me well, and it helped me move up into management roles. So I spent about a decade as a used car manager, then a general sales manager at one of the top Hyundai stores in St. Louis. I created my own coaching framework there at my dealership, which helped me and my team set first-time records, like number 1 in the region and stuff like that. And then I started coaching vendors in the auto space, and ended up becoming an executive of DriveCentric CRM, where I was the chief business development officer, where I led helped develop their sales team and their account management processes and team, and helped them grow their business. And then since then, I've struck out on my own. And now we are coaching. I've got a team of coaches, and we're doing leadership development and people development and communication coaching for dealers across the country.
That is awesome, man. I remember I actually saw somewhere somewhat recently that you were military, and so thank you for your service, man. I appreciate that. I know a lot of people do. So you've got a really strong leadership background to jump into this conversation today. So right now, are you just doing coaching the car business, doing car motivators? Because I know you have the group on Facebook, you have the website. Is that's what your passion is, and that's what you are solely doing right now, correct?
That is 100%. Yeah, there's no, I'm either working with dealers or vendors that work with dealers. I don't have any side gigs or anything like that. That's our main focus. And we have a mission is to bring coaching to the car business.
Absolutely. So if there was one thing you were known for, would you say it's coaching, or is it something else? What would, if they said, you know what, Sean, and someone says, hey, so tell me about Sean Kelley, what would they say about you?
Well, I think it depends who you ask, right? If you ask my wife, she'd say the crazy workaholic, right? Of course, she supports me and does a great job with my family and everything while I get to live out my mission. So I'm very blessed on that. If you were to ask the salespeople that work for me directly under me, they would tell you that I lead by example, that I'm extremely supportive, and I'm always there for them no matter what, and that I believe in helping everyone reach their full potential. And then if you ask any of the people I coach at my dealers, or I'm sure I've got a few people I coach watching this now, feel free to chime in with your thoughts, guys. I'd love to see what you think. As you know, I ask you, what do you think about what I do and how I help you? And they will tell you that that I'm very motivational. I'm really good at getting people to stretch their comfort zone and think outside the box and try new things that ultimately lead to greater success, you know?
So you're a lot of things to a lot of different people, right? I mean, and I would agree with that. From the things that I know of you, I think all of those things certainly make you up, and they're all positive things for sure. So let me ask you, I forgot to do the transition there. See, I try and keep it really smooth and really good. I forgot to slide it back up. So they're like, which one's he's talking and there's no lips moving. So let me ask you, because you and I were just talking a little bit beforehand, and you had said, hey, you've written articles on leadership, even one recently similar to kind of one of the prep questions I'd sent. And what would you say are some of the, because you're in store, you're engaged with people at seminars, you are working with executive level and high level leaders often in your business. So what are some of the key characteristics that would you say define a really good leader?
Well, Mike, what a great question. And I think you can sum the entire thing up in one sentence. The best leaders out there, they make it all about them. And what I mean by that is, I think a lot of times managers in any industry, it doesn't just have to be the car business, but they lead the way they like to be led and the way that they were probably led growing up in their industry or their business. And, which is usually like blind obedience sort of leadership, right? And
right.
It's kind of like an off-the-shelf, one-size-fits-all, leadership model. Does that make sense? So I think
absolutely.
The best leaders make it all about them. And they learn to tap into each person's individuality and leverage their strengths and know what motivates each player on the team differently. And then understands how to communicate with them, meeting them where they're at, communicating with them in the way they like to communicate. So I think that is the one sentence that sums up the greatest leaders, is they make it all about others.
Gotcha. I was going to ask you to clarify that, because you were saying when they make it all about them, you mean they make it all about the other people. They make it all about the person, like what is important to the person that's coming up is what you're saying, correct? 100%, the person they're coaching.
Yes, that's exactly it. Put the others first, and by you helping lift them up, you lift yourself up.
So one of the things, and this is off script, but obviously since you are in store working with people, we got a few people on. I'm going to give some shouts out to like Michael Boyd, Shane Wood, Jamie Schroeder, Doug Chitrin. I got to lean over there to see. I've got a little bit of a rough stream. I'll tell everybody, if you're missing this on the stream, you could just pause it, depending on where you're looking at, and then it'll pick back up. Or I do repost all of the episodes as well. So we got it recording, and I think that might be some of my interference today. So real quick. So when we're talking about leadership, what are some of the things that so besides, because I'm going to take you out, because the people pick and choose, and they pick up on things that they really like, right? They connect with things that people that are like them. What are some things that maybe would complement your style, or that you've seen that you've said, hey man, I hadn't seen or heard that before. I really like this. And I know that's kind of off script, so take a second to think, if you will. When you go into a store and you see a really good manager or a really good leader, and you go, man, that guy or that gal really does this well. And I think that's awesome, but maybe it's something that you've got an opportunity to learn and grow in, but you want to really be able to apply it.
Well, what a great question. And I guess what I'd like to throw out there is, that's the best part about coaching. And I'm going to be super selfish and just tell you, I get to learn just as much about the jobs and what they're doing than they're going to learn, because, I'm not giving them the answers. 80% of the time, they're coming up with their own game plans. And I'm there to support them, and I follow up and I check in and I give them any resources they might need. But, when I see them succeed after a coaching conversation, and it could be anything about, time management, and I see we coach someone on time management, and all of a sudden they become extremely efficient and proficient at something. And I say, wow, I'm going to do that too. I'm going to start learning from them. So it's amazing when you coach people and you work with a lot of different people across the country, and you leverage their strengths, how you see, wow, that's something that I can do too. And it can be something as simple, like I said, as time management, or better way to recognize or reward people, or even a better way to, motivate and inspire people or hold people accountable. So I'm always learning from the people I coach. It's amazing.
No, I absolutely agree with you. Like I said before we got started, that's one of the reasons that I do this show. One, I'm really, really passionate about leadership and motivation, just as I know you are. But the opportunity to meet with people like you, somebody like yourself, Sean, for 15 or 30 minutes and just pick your brain and find out all of the great ideas and to share that with our audience, with other people. And I know that's something that you're passionate about too, is sharing with others. So I'm going to ask you, because we talked a little bit beforehand, what is the number one question you get asked when you're in store?
Well, and first off, I feel just as good about hanging out with you here as hopefully you do about me, my friend.
Thank
it's
you.
An honor. I've been following you for a long time, and I respect your faith-based approach. I love the fact that faith is something I think the auto industry needs more of. And my to answer your question, the number one question I get asked in store is, I guess from managers, it's often, how do I get my team to be more motivated? How do I get them to? They often tell me, I feel like I want more for them than they want for themselves. And so you've got a lot of managers that really do care and want to push their team, but that's the problem. They're trying to push their team.
Right. It's like trying to push a rope, right? And I don't know what your take is on it, but for me, the motivation is, and this is just my 2 cents, motivation can be tough to force on someone. I think you've nailed that right. Is it can be tough to force onto somebody because you have to know what they want, right? You have to know what their desires are. And so motivation comes from that need and that desire and that want for them to get something, which I think you hit in the previous question. As a really good leader knows it, they make it all about the other person. So,
yeah.
Shoot.
Well, talking about the motivation, what they want, that's right. Exactly it. I think leaders are often, because it's a push approach, right? It's yelling, telling, and selling. And, we're trying to chase salespeople away from a negative outcome with a stick, right? Instead of having them be methodically pulled to what they want. And what I found in coaching, in having thousands of coaching conversations, is that 99% of the time, what someone wants, like what a salesperson wants in their career and what a manager wants them to do, are almost always connected. The problem is that they don't know that yet. So what I want to do is I want to help managers across the country learn to be coaches, and I think it's critical to the auto industry's success. And I'm happy to share with you why on that too. But yeah, if we can help the managers, the leadership become better coaches, then they're going to find out what motivates salespeople, and then they're going to learn how to connect those dots. What does the salesperson want with what I want them to do, and get them to take action.
Right, absolutely. You brought up just a minute ago too, and I know I'm kind of shifting gear. My brain, for anybody who's watching, it fires off in all these different directions. So like when Sean's talking and he'll say something, I'll go, oh man, that's a really good question. I got to talk about that here in just a second. It is not linear. I don't think it's ever linear. I have it set up to try and be linear, but it never plays out that way. So let me...
That's right. We're in the car business. We all have ADD. It's all
right. So let me ask you a question, because you did bring up, and you were talking about, a faith-based approach. Is that an approach? Because even when you and I were talking and we were promoting the show, that was one of the comments you made. You said, hey, faith-based, family-oriented, and that's something that you and I have probably very similar values on. Do you find it difficult sometimes to go into stores that are disconnected from that sort of, or do you only go into stores that say, hey, yeah, we'll entertain that so that you can keep your core values? Am I making sense there?
Yes, absolutely. So, actually, great question. And it's a challenging question. I'll tell you why, because as a business owner, I've got to look out for, the bottom line and paying the bills, right? But on the other hand, sure. I have values that I don't ever want to compromise. So at the end of the day, I've found that having, and what I read in this book called Book Yourself Salad, which is a great book. It talks about how you should have a red velvet rope policy where you only let the right clientele in the nightclub, right? So for me, while I wouldn't say faith-based values, the values are a requirement to work together. What religion is neither here nor there, but the last thing at the end of the day, it's no different than myself. I converted to Catholicism about 3.5, 4 years ago because I wanted to be on the same page as my wife. She was a cradle Catholic, and I wanted to make sure that our values were aligned. So I think it just makes sense to work with businesses where you have similar values. I think you can achieve greater results and work together, function better. And I think managers need to do that when they hire people. Clarify those expectations. Let them know what they're getting into when they join your culture. They've got to fit into your culture. So yeah, I think I need to fit into the dealership culture, and we need to have similar core beliefs, or it's probably not a good fit. So yeah, I do walk away from some business, which I walked away from a good sized project because of that.
Sure.
Not too long ago.
No, I kind of anticipated that. I mean, that's one of those things that like you said, yes, it's good. It's definitely good. You got to pay the bills. You got to look out for it. But at the end of the day, you also, what's right is right. And you've got to stay true to that core and to yourself. So I think you bring up a really good point there too. When you were talking about when we're bringing people into the car business to give them a fair expectation. I mean, that ties in. And when you're saying a fair expectation, I think it goes more. I mean, there's a lot of things to lay out there, aren't there? It's not just, hey, listen, here's the expectation. You got to sell 12 or 15 or 20 or 30 cars. It's not, right? It goes beyond that, doesn't it? You want to expand on that a little bit?
Mike, you couldn't be more right, man. I mean, there are a million expectations that a manager has for their meta salesperson. And it's, and I coach a lot of people on this that are going from one dealership to another. And I often find they're making the same mistake that caused them to leave their first dealership, in that they're applying for a job to try to sell that dealership on getting hired. And that dealership is interviewing them with the intent on selling that salesperson on working there. And so you got two people trying to close the deal, and guess what? The deal always happens. The problem is it's not a good deal. So instead of the one thing that I coach people around on this is, managers, when you're interviewing, when you're looking to hire, don't try to, the goal isn't to get someone hired. The goal is to find out if they're a good fit. The only way to do that is to share expectations honestly and candidly, and make sure that they're willing, and want to meet those expectations before you hire them. And I think that's a good way to do that. What are your thoughts on that?
No, absolutely. I absolutely agree with you. I find myself over and over again when I'm interviewing people, I get in awe because it's like, oh my gosh, that's the right answer. Well, they're all the right answer, right? So all I can say is, yeah, absolutely, I agree with you, because there are so many. I mean, you've had so far. What are we? 20 minutes into this, and it feels like 5. And you've had so many good points and so much good information. So I'm gonna ask you this one because I like this question, and I try and ask it on every one of my shows for everybody that I'm interviewing. And we've all heard it asked. There are a lot of shows where they say, okay, so Sean, if you could go back in time, right, and you could give your teenage self one piece of advice. And I don't ask that question because we don't have a time machine, so don't start looking too confused just yet, right? What piece of advice that you might have given to yourself, what would you give somebody else that's coming up in business, and not necessarily just the car business? Because really leadership at its core, whether it be in a church environment, a religious environment, whether it be in the car business, whether it be in management at the grocery store, leadership, there are some certain core things. So if you were talking to somebody that's coming up, that's not necessarily new to business, because I think if somebody's getting into one of those leadership roles or a managerial role, they've probably got some business experience. But someone that says, I really want to take my leadership to the next level, what 1 or 2 or 3 pieces of advice would you say, look, here's what you need to do. You need these are the write this down things, right? What would you have them write down out of today?
I would say you've got to learn the language of coaching. It's that simple. Your career, and actually I believe the future of our industry depends on the leadership in our industry learning how to coach. And I'll tell you why, because turnover, as we all know, turnover is a huge expense, right, in the auto industry, right, Mike? Well, the bottom line is this, man. Turnover can reach heights as far as the expense it costs the dealership to where it's cheaper to go with kiosks that sell cars, right? And then you don't have to pay the benefits. And bottom line is this: if I know that there's a lot of laws, there's certain tipping points and factors here, but my point is this: learn the language of coaching, because we can't keep leading people the way we did 20, 30, even 10 years ago. Blind obedience was great in the Army when I was in combat, but that's not how the biggest generation that are becoming employees, which are millennials, they don't like to be led through blind obedience. And bottom line is this: every time you tell, yell, and sell, okay, to get someone to do something, they're doing it out of compliance, and you rob them of their ability to think for themselves. When you start coaching and you learn the language of coaching, your people are going to think for themselves. They're going to start solving their own problems, making your life easier, allowing you to be a sales manager instead of a problem manager. And you're going to help people reach amazing heights in their career. And they're going to ask you to marry them on the showroom floor. They're going to ask you to be their godfather. By the way, these are things that happened to me when I was coaching my guys on the showroom floor.
That's
and those
awesome.
are my greatest accomplishments. When I left the dealership, Mike, I got to promote 7 people behind me. Those are my greatest accomplishments, and that's what you care about when you're 80 years old. It's not how many cars you sold.
Right. No, I would agree with you on that too. It's never the number. It's not the volume, right? How many did you sell? Well, I could look at, for some people it is. They go, oh, when I was selling cars, but I agree with you in that when you're spreading that light and that real, at your core, that is, and congratulations. I got to tell you, that is really cool. You had somebody ask you to marry him on the showroom floor?
Yeah. I literally have the marriage certificate in my phone and my favorites. I got to marry, and the marriage certificate literally says Sundrup Hyundai. Like that was the location of the wedding. That's
so cool. We had someone, my background, I was a hockey coach, which was where I learned to coach. And we had somebody that wanted to get married in our roller rink. So same sort of layout. So that, I think some unique locations like that, when it really means something, that's really cool. So, and we can call you the Godfather now. Yeah. I mean, you're much younger than the Godfather, but right. So let me ask you this, because you've brought this up several times, between coaching and leadership. And you've said, and hence, coaching, hashtag coaching the car business in the background, the car biz coach. I would, for one, agree with you that coaching and leadership, while there are many similarities, they are not the same. And you've said just recently here, you said, okay, well, people need to learn to coach. What are some of the key differences between, rather than, because a lot of people, for you in those two verticals, what would you say the differences are between coaching and leadership?
Well, I got to speak at Digital Dealer on the difference between training and coaching, right? So coaching is really a language, and it's how you communicate with your people. And at the end of the day, it can be, you can lead your coaching is a leadership style, right? Instead of giving the answers, I'm asking. I'm helping them problem solve. Instead of telling them what I want them to do and giving them their goals, I'm asking them for their goals. Instead of assuming they want to be, a sales manager, a finance manager, a car salesman forever, I'm finding out what they want to do with their life and their career, and then I'm helping them get there. So I think coaching is a leadership style, and it's a language. But at the end of the day, there is more to leadership than coaching, right? There is the 4 C's, character. I'm a good human being that someone can look up to. I'm competent. I'm good at my job. I've got to know how to do my job. I've got to be able to demonstrate that and show my people. Character, caring, competence, and coaching. The 4 C's of leadership. To me, that's really it.
No, I think that's great. Here, I keep getting sidetracked because I am, like I've said to many people, I'm taking notes as you're talking because I think it's just fantastic. So kind of as we're winding down here, we're coming to the tail end. Everybody, and you can tell, for anybody who's watching, they can tell, Sean, and I had to shut off because I was losing the signal, so I shut off the sidebar or whatnot. But normally, a couple things. One is, please, for anybody who is watching, if you've got extra questions for Sean or for myself, please throw them up there in the sidebar. I know, Sean, I'm sure you'll go back and look at them at the tail end to see what we've got going on there and answer them. But let me ask you this.
I will answer every single one of them individually after this.
So if anybody has questions, and even if it's in the future, if you're not watching live, if you're watching later, throw a question up there. I'll tag Sean in and so forth, including whether you're on Facebook or on YouTube, because I know you'd want to be involved in that. And people can tell, the people that are watching this, I know can tell for certain. They go, man, Sean Kelley, you are passionate about coaching the car business. You're passionate about it. You get fired up about it, like you're doing something that you love. So let me ask you, because, or at least I think you are. I'm sure there's other things that you're passionate about as well. But what if you have other people, and you've heard people say, hey, you got to find your passion, and that will lead you to success. Find your passion, and that's going to take you to the next level in life. So what advice could you give to somebody that's watching this episode that might help them find their passion?
Oh man, what a great question. And yes, I'm blessed and lucky to be living out my passion every day and my mission, which is, to impact the leadership landscape of the car business, and by turning as many managers into coaches as possible. So yes, and I'll give you the advice, because I think, and I was just talking to one of my connections on LinkedIn about this, who happens to be a manager over in Massachusetts that I'm going to be visiting in a couple weeks. But guys, bottom line is this: start with the end in mind. All right. I was no different. I was selling cars for the money. And I actually wrote an article called Selling for the Money is Weaker Than Circus Lemonade. I know, and I got in an argument with a couple trainers like, well, what else do you sell for? I'm like, well, that's the key. Money is the result of doing everything else right. Okay. When I promise you this, when your team is asking you to marry them on the showroom floor, you can't stop the money because they're that motivated to work for you. Right. So how do you find out what the motivation is? How do you uncover someone's true purpose? You've got to start with the end in mind. So sit down and ask them the tough questions. Ask them to visualize what does life look like when you're 80 years old? Where do you live at? What are you known for doing? When you talk to your colleagues that you used to work with, what do they say about you? And what values have you instilled in your kids and your family? Those are the types of questions you've got to start with the end in mind, because sometimes we're on the right road, but we're going the wrong direction. So it's really important that you set that destination. That way you can always make sure you're going down the right path in the right direction.
That's a great way to take us out, Sean. Thank you. And I think that's a really strong statement, just saying, begin with, and so to speak, begin with the end in mind. But you're saying even go past that, look, map it out and have the conversation and really see into the future. I think that's great. So as we wrap it up, any closing thoughts? Anything else you want to add? Anything that I missed because we talked a little bit beforehand, and I get overzealous and excited. So if there's something I missed right now, jump in, man.
Well, again, Mike, I want to thank you, and I know we wanted to try to keep it between 15 and 30. That way, the people driving to work could hear the whole thing.
Absolutely.
So I will honor that request. Though I would be more than happy. This has been a great discussion, and I appreciate your awesome questions. So I'd be happy to jump on the show anytime you wanted me to jump on again.
Sure.
So that's number one. Number two, I would just say if anyone ever wanted to reach me, I believe in making myself available for anyone who needs coaching or support in their career at any time. So people I don't even coach regularly reach out to me, and then I help out. So you guys can hit me up. You can email me, Sean, SEAN, at carmotivators.com, just like you see. Let me move my head which way. There it is. Sean at carmotivators.com. You can also, you can message me on my cell phone, 314-323-8234. Next week, I'll be at the Rockstar Auto Conference. I'm speaking there on how to get more motivation from your team. And then I'm going to be working with Irecon Cars, coaching and consulting with them at Digital Dealer. So, so next week I'll be a little bit out of the loop. But if you're going to be a Digital Dealer or Rockstar, I would love to meet you. Let me know you watch this and what value you gain from it.
Absolutely fantastic. And I was gonna say there, hey, make sure you're out and about. And I have been to Rockstar. You and I, like two ships in the night, missed one another. You're at this Rockstar. I was at the last one, and it is a great event. And people are going to be just blessed to hear you speak, and so many other great speakers. So that's going to be fantastic. So, what's the best? And I appreciate you giving out the cell phone number. I can vouch for that, because you and we've kind of hit and miss connection for 6 months or a year. But you've had questions, or I've had questions. I've participated in your group and so forth. And for anyone watching, I can tell you, Sean he is a class act. Absolutely follows through with what he says he will. If you have a question, he jumps right on it. So I think that's fantastic, Sean.
Yeah, that's, by the way, thank you for your participation in the Car Motivators group. Guys, if you're watching this and you want to be a part of that group, I post coaching questions of the day in there 3 or 4 times a week. I do live videos. I interview some people like this. Mike's in there, obviously. And then beyond that, guys, yeah, man, Mike, I appreciate your advocacy and man, to talk about Rockstar. One other thing, I'm excited to say, Matt Koenig Matt asked me, he said, man, Sean, I've been blessed enough to do a little coaching with them and Rockstar.
Uh-huh.
And he said, Sean, I'd love it if you could support some of the people that attend our conference in implementing the game plan. So he asked me to do that. And I was like, yeah, you know what? Car Motivators would be happy to help out. So that's one thing, talk about a value add for a conference.
Yeah, I saw that.
How cool is that? Isn't that awesome?
That's awesome.
That's a show.
So, all right. Well, hey, Sean, thank you again for coming on the show with me tonight. I appreciate it so much. And I'm going to go ahead and take us out here, man. Thank you.
That's awesome.
So for everybody that took the time to tune in and join us live, thank you so much. I appreciate you. You are absolutely awesome. Like we said before, if you have questions, if you have comments, please drop them there in the sidebar. If you've got questions for Sean, I know, tag him in. He'll be happy to answer them. Remember, I'm doing these every single Wednesday and Sunday. So Wednesdays, I do the live leadership lessons, and I've got a really awesome guest. Every Wednesday, I have a lot of them from Automotive, and then there's some from other verticals as well. And then Sundays, I do normally a leadership or motivation or sales training piece that's about 8 to 10 minutes. So I would love for you to join me either live or on any of the recorded sessions. You can check these out at leadtheteam.tv. That'll take you right over to my YouTube channel where you can watch any of the current or past episodes. I think there's about 350 different shows on there right now. So I would love for you to tune in and check it out. For anybody that tuned in live, thank you so much. If you're tuning in later, thank you so much. One other quick thing, and I always forget this at the beginning, but make sure you smash the likes and the loves and the thumbs up and all that stuff, and share the video. Click the share button now. See, you already know the content that he delivered. So now's your opportunity. Because it was so awesome, you got to click the share button. So I look forward to seeing you again soon. And until we speak next, I'll tell you what, I hope you have an absolutely fantastic day. We'll talk to you soon, everybody.